Okay, so thank you very much for acknowledging my achievements. So I highly appreciate it.
Yeah.
So the journey started from when I was in school. I've always noticed that was in the 70s, in secondary school, and I noticed that we had very bad infrastructure
Yeah.
in Nigeria. People, even as of that time, when things were relatively better than today, people didn't have adequate housing. People were not living in good accommodation. The environment wasn't conducive. And 40 years down the line, it's not any better. So that made me take the decision that if I want to do something, I have to do it in engineering or construction. So I was fortunate enough to be admitted to study building technology and design at the University of Ife in 1982. And after graduation, I started working for Bouygues Nigeria Limited, which is an international construction company in Lagos here. And so I worked on different projects as a planning and costing engineer. And so we did quite a number of projects, including the UBA building, Marina. And following that, during that time, I was opportune to study further for a master's degree in construction management at the University of Lagos. So not having enough challenges and thinking that my message isn't really getting out there, I decided to study further and joined academics in 1998. I first joined the Lagos State Polytechnic in 1994, and then the University of Lagos as a full-time academic in 1998. Studied towards my PhD in building, which I completed in 2005. And so I wasn't really getting that stimulus also here at University of Lagos, and believing that maybe there's more out there to learn. I wouldn't want to be a professor, a local champion, without really seeing what is out there. And so I got this opportunity at the University of Cape Town to lecture construction management. So I joined University of Cape Town, leaving Unilag in 2009. And so there I have been promoted ad hominem from senior lecturer to associate professor in 2015, and finally professor in the year 2020 at the University of Cape Town. Yeah, so that was one of the discussion I had with a colleague of mine who is also a lecturer in South Africa. When he said, what's in Nigeria? We all come from Nigeria. We were taught here. We learned in the Nigerian system. And I said then, we did have international, because I was saying Abu was number 6 in the world in the 80s. I said that is true. So at that point in time, Nigeria still had this kind of interactions with the international world. We used to have visiting lecturers that come from the UK, Italy to teach us there when I was in the university. So up to the 80s and maybe early 90s. But with the passage of time, we've lost all that type of interactions. I don't know what happened to this system. So we lost all that, and we can't regain. We don't seem to have regained it, and we've lost our position. But so what we learned then is enough to carry us through to teach on the international stage. So I have lots of seniors and even juniors who have been able to teach on the international stage, teach in international universities, become pro-vice chancellors, become vice chancellors, all from the beginning in Nigeria. Yes, so we do have a course we call professional practice. And that prepares students to engage with the outside world after they graduate. So that prepares them for the business world, the world of practice. So where we teach them the different institutes, the different professions, the codes of practice, and so on. So it's the same in South Africa, and we also do teach them here as well in Nigeria about what to expect in the outside world, especially codes of practice, practice of the profession, entrepreneurship, and so on. So that's where I got my own kind of leaning towards the business side of things, especially in construction.
Yes.
It's from this kind of curriculum that has an emphasis on the business side and the technical side as well. So then, when I, because I teach this practical aspect of the business side of construction, I'm very much interested in the business side. So I did have a student who once told me, that if you know all this, then why are you teaching? Why don't you have a business? Okay, so what is really holding Africans back, or holding us back to take advantage of this vast industry we have in Africa, which we could tap into to provide employment for our people, is that we go into that business for the wrong reasons. I think that's the number one problem. We go into construction for the wrong reason, to make money. That's why people go. It's not to serve people, but it's to make money. People see it as an avenue. And I don't know if I can say this on your platform, but politicians also see it as an avenue for jobs for the boys. So you find out that a contractor who has no experience in construction, who just started a company yesterday, a politician, will be awarded billions and billions naira worth of contracts. So it's just jobs, people, an avenue for people to make money from the system. Nobody looks at it as a service. So that's where the problem is. So until we start to look at construction as a service, not, you can make some money, I'm not saying don't make money. You can make some money, but not that kind of money that you don't serve the people. You don't serve your workers. You don't do the work they ask you to do. They ask you to construct a road. They ask you to put up a structure. You use substandard materials. You use very poor materials in the road construction. One rain comes and the whole project is washed away. So because people want to make money. So it's money making, and it's the best money making avenue ever. Construction is where there's a lot of money. So you see, if you look at the budget, billions and billions will be voted to maintenance, new construction, new infrastructure, and so on. So if that is the end goal, we are not going to develop the industry if we don't have people being given contracts who have a passion for doing things right and also serving the people. You see, in most of these companies that they set up, the mushroom companies, they have very high turnover of employees. Within 1 year, they've turned over like the employees like 10 times. There's no steady job employment. You are not looking for jobs because you want to keep your workers. You're just, once the contract is over, you disband the whole workers, that's even if they were employed full time, and then you are looking for the next contract. There's no continuity. So that's the number one problem. The focus of these companies is not in the right place. In South Africa, for example, and I believe that they are replicating that system here in Nigeria as well.
Okay.
There's this body they call the Construction Industry Development Board.
Okay.
So the Construction Industry Development Board regulates the practice of the construction industry itself,
Yes.
and of contractors. So they register. I know in Nigeria we register contractors. Maybe the Federal Ministry of Works registers contractors. So, but theirs is a national body. If you want to obtain contracts from the government,
Okay.
you have to register. You have to be registered. So they grade the contractors into different levels.
Yes, yes.
Based on their capacity, in terms of financial capacity and in terms of technical capacity. So that body has been instituted by government.
Okay.
And so once they look at your technical, how many workers do you have, what's their qualification.
That's during the tender process.
Not only during the tender process, even before you tender. So it's
Okay.
like a qualification before
For you
you
to
even
even
tender.
register.
Yes, so during the tender process,
Battery and charge.
the tender, the call for tender would show, the call for tender would show that you must be of this certain grade.
Yes.
So if you want to do this job, you must be grade 8.
That
If you want to do this job, you must be grade 6 or and above.
Yeah.
Although sometimes some of the other industry people see it as discrimination
Okay.
and a way to keep other people out, like a barrier that they want to use it to keep other people out from taking
getting
part
infrastructure project.
from getting infrastructure project, because maybe because of their history they don't have the money, they can't show the bank account and so on. So you must have the financial muscle. You must show that you are capable of doing certain jobs in a previous level and you completed it successfully before you are upgraded, and sometimes they downgrade you. So this process is done every year. I think every 3 years.
Okay.
So you submit your papers, you're either upgraded or downgraded based on your performance.
So that has helped the professionals in South Africa, for instance,
That has helped
to actually be able to play in the infrastructure sector.
Yes, so that has helped them to keep the environment sane. It has helped them to recognize the role that can be played by professionals.
Yes.
It's not that professionals must own the companies.
Yes.
So you can be a businessman, you can own a company in the construction industry, but you must have the right professionals
Yes.
that will enable you to execute the project you want to do.
Yes.
It's not that you just set up a company, you don't have the requisite professionals and then you get the ₦1 billion tender. No.
Okay. Okay.
It will have been stated in the CFP that this is the grade of contractors we want. Yeah, I will just try and answer that question by saying that consulting is a more straightforward business.
Okay.
Straightforward in terms of you know who you are dealing with. It's manageable. It's a kind of small. It has a smaller scope. It doesn't have. It's not dynamic. It doesn't have any surprises because you know what to do and then how to do it. So it's easier to operate in that environment of consulting. But when you go into construction business is very dynamic.
Yes.
And it requires lots of decision making, which you won't do in consulting. You don't have very crucial decisions to take in consulting when you compare to construction.
Yes.
So now, let's say for example, you are tendering for a project. it's a 4-year project, like that Lagos-Ibadan Expressway that's never ended.
Never ended.
So you are doing a 4-year project, and you are quoting with today's price of cement. In 4 years' time, that cement price will be the same. So there are many companies, there are many people who have tried it and have failed because of not being strategic, because of not being able to read the environment, and different things that will happen and will erode away your profits, and then you can lose your house, you can lose your assets with it. So you can't ring-fence your assets, especially if that is what you use to borrow money or something when it comes to construction. And you can't predict what's going to happen in 4 years' time. So all those things make people shy away. So that it is true. I think it needs like a kind of rethinking in the way in which we as professionals approach construction. So there are lots of people interested in the business side. But then it's, just as I said, it's very dynamic and a very toxic environment. It's an inhospitable environment. The foreign companies, they have been able to study the environment well, and they have certain strategies which they put in place, which our own companies or people who are venturing into it have failed to recognize. We failed to study these companies properly, and because of that, they are making very narrow. Because and since you are experienced, I've had it said before that Julius Baja usually they are given a blank check. It's as if they don't even tender or something. They just come to them and say, "How much do you want to take?" I agree with you. So, what happens with just as you said, they build their brand. And if you remember what I said before, I said the focus, maybe because we come from, I want to say maybe a position of lack. I wouldn't want to say poverty. So maybe because we come from that position, the focus we are trying to build is to get, our focus when we go into those jobs, and I hope the professionals won't crucify me, is because we are all looking for money.
Which is what the husband is looking for anyway. But how do we get the money?
But they didn't look for money first. They first built their brand. So that's the difference. So sometimes we put the cats before the horse. It's the same thing. They too are looking for money, but they can sacrifice that money to build their brand.
So, in other words, one of the things you would like to say, if I don't know, is that if I am Oni and Son, I must be prepared to see Oni and Son last for 100 years, just like Guinness. Okay, and in that way, people will look for you for projects.
They'll be giving you blank checks. So we must have that vision to see, because 25, even 10 years is not enough. This thing is something that the owner of the person who invested for his children in Julius Baja, maybe he didn't make a cent. Must have been only very short nickel. But his children are the ones reaping the benefits today. That is one thing Nigeria, I'm just saying Nigeria as, or maybe the Africans as a race, investment in the future. We don't want to invest. It's the same with a business. So I was interviewing, I'll give you an example. I was interviewing this company in South Africa. And so they showed me their balance sheet. And I think it's the same with Julius Baja as well. I don't know if Julius Baja is that rich in capital assets. But this is not a very big company. The company is only located in the Western Cape of South Africa, on Cape Town region. So it's not like the Julius Baja company. And I looked at their balance sheets, and they have capital assets. They had 500 and something million rands in capital. Apart from their fixed assets, trucks and so on, money in the bank. So I mean, it was, I was startled that if you have this type of money, then why are you still in business? You understand? I thought, if you have 500 and something million, I mean, if I have 500 and something million rands in Naira, it's about, we are saying 12.5 billion Naira in the bank. And I said, if I have this type of money, even maybe 20 million rands, which is about 500 million Naira, I don't think I'll be in business anymore. You know? And then maybe one thing, if you make me the MD here as well, then this money, you know, that will be the first thing that we'll be spending, and maybe buying a big car, doing all this and doing that. Then they said, that's why we'll never employ you in this company. They said, that's why we'll never. They said, we don't look at the money as money. Looking at their company, the bank, the balance sheet. I started looking at the balance sheet of most companies. And I found out that some of the big companies, 2 billion, 3 billion in capital assets. And I looked at, I came back to Nigeria and I looked at that of Julius Baja, and I think I saw that Julius Baja had maybe like 2 billion Naira then when I was doing this interview. And I said, this is the reason why these people continue in business. Because they said somebody left that money there, which they didn't take, they didn't spend it, for us to continue in business. Our goal is to increase that money and not to spend it. We see it as if somebody gave me a car or a house or something, and we want to multiply it. I think that's the reasoning we don't have. Because if we see, I'm just talking of my own perspective, and then my own kind of thinking now started to change. That the investments, we have to invest, and you have to leave this money in your succession plan. And tell your successor that this money here is for you to grow the business further. Look for more areas, look for expansion. How you would expand the business, bring in more money, and increase this seed I've left for you. I could have eaten it, but I didn't, I left it for you. To go and do likewise. And that's how you see that these companies, the foreign companies, even the Chinese, they have that kind of brain. Everybody is World Trade Organization, they're all trying to look for businesses, increase their market share, bring in more money, because somebody planted a seed and they don't want to eat it. Business. And it's not that when you make 100 million, the first thing, go and buy a big car. No, they don't do that. It is to invest back, build that brand, continue building the brand. It's like a selfless life. Selfless. It's not for self, but for the workers. So you find out that most of their workers have been with them, just like you said, Julius Baja, 25 years, 20 years. They've been with them for 30 years. Because they see it as a family thing. It's a family business. We're investing in them, we're investing in the future of their children, and they bring in their children, even the workers will bring in their children, and they see that this thing, this arrow, is what we use to get money, to feed our families and live. so to my professional colleagues, the advice would be that we have to focus on the job, on the projects. Deliver the best projects that you can. Build your brand. Be known for good. Don't focus on profits. Sometimes you can lose profits because you are trying to build your brand. You get the money. What you lose on the swings, you are going to gain it on the roundabouts. Don't look at it as a loss. When you are trying to build that brand, whatever you do, invest in your brand, not in yourself. So once you do that, we'll be able to grow our businesses gradually. It may not be in your lifetime, but it's something you hand over to the next generation. And don't look at, I know Yorubas have a saying, "Komoto jogu ma jogu." So with that kind of orientation, if we don't have that orientation, that you will leave it for the next generation, and you continue and pass on the torch to the next generation. With that gradually, it's not something, I think sometimes we see it as something we could do overnight. We could change things overnight. The wheel turns slowly, but we have to invest today to even be able to reap something in 50 years' time, for the next generation to reap something. And when we look at what maybe the Western government, for example, if we talk about Western government, Western Nigeria training people like University of Ife, that kind of investment they made in our lives.
Yes.
That's what made it possible for us to be able to go out there today and lecture. So it's investment. But now today, with no investment, students are not in school for 8 months, 10 months. That black hole will be there in 50. We are reaping something of 50 years ago today. That's what I am reaping. It's the investment they made in education 50 years ago. It wasn't something they would have seen. We have free education, this and that. It wasn't something they will see the next 10 years. But that's what we are reaping today. So that investment takes time. So they have to be conscious of the fact that investment in whatever you do takes time. It may not be your own, but people will steal it after you've gone. Julius Bader, I don't think he's alive anymore, but his brand is still there. The brand he left, the investment he made is still there. Even Bouygues, the investment they made is still there. So we have to invest in our brand. That is for our future professionals.
Yes.
As much as possible. Do your best work. Put your best foot forward. Look at service to the people, to the masses. Be service oriented. This is a service industry.
Yes.
Don't say because they gave me this tender, then it's for me. No, it's for the people. Do that role. It's for the people. Do it well. So focus on the service and not on the profit. It's tough, I know. It's tough to have that change in this kind of difficult environment. But if more of us can focus on service to your employees as well. Don't leave them out in the cold. Look for the next job because of them. Focus on that brand, because most of them are looking up to you. The carpenters, the tilers, the plumbers, the electricians, the bricklayers. They're looking up to you for their next job. They're looking up to you as an arrowhead to get the next job. If Oga doesn't bring in the next job, then that means those ones will fall at the wayside. And we are not building the industry. So focus on them as well. How would they get the next job? How would they get the next meal? Whilst building that brand. And the more people that go into that will be able to, who have that kind of orientation, will be able to build the industry and take it over from foreign domination.
Yes.
Because we are building the brand, and the government itself can say that Nigerians can do it as well.
Yes. Yes.
So the next one is the politicians, the government itself.
Yeah.
And then we need to institute a body, like I mentioned, the Construction Industry Development Board in South Africa, that regulates the industry. Regulates it in such a way that it's not winner takes all. Like if you're a politician, then you are guaranteed of a job. You can't get a job, but you have to show that you have the technical capacity to do it. It's not just briefcase alone. You must show you have the technical capacity and the financial muscle to be able to do that job. So there must be a kind of qualification system already in place even before the tender, the call for tender is done. There must be a qualification that you already know the different people in the industry. So it encourages the professionals to go into the industry because they are sure that at the end of the day they'll get something. But without that kind of framework put in place by government to guide the practices in the industry, and when one government goes, another one comes, and then you lose your tender, and then another, then there's so much dynamic turnover in the industry that unless you are friends with the new government, you won't get any job. But this shouldn't be the case. The jobs should be awarded based on your capacity and if you are competent to do it. So there must be something in place to regulate that area of performance. I think it would have been good for us to learn something.
Okay.
Because I see it as a stepping stone. This new normal should have opened our eyes to the fact that we need to look after our local supply chain. How do we continue when all the borders are locked?
Yeah.
Work does not have to stop. So we need to leverage. So it should have been a stepping stone for us, the COVID-19 and the locking of borders and so on. So I see it as, like the World War released, caused independence of many nations. Remove the stranglehold of the developed world on the countries they colonized. I see COVID-19 also in the same way as that World War that has removed the stranglehold, should have cleared our eyes to see that we can do this thing and we should be doing it. We should be in charge of our supply chain. We should use that opportunity to create jobs for our citizens. Most of these jobs could have been done locally. So if we are here on our own, can't we do anything? Can't we continue with the business of construction without foreign companies? So that should have removed, so it's removing the stranglehold, and then we should be able to fill that gap. So this new normal should help. If we wait again and then that stranglehold comes back, it might take another 17 years before we see this type of opportunity again. So I don't know if Africa has realized it, but it's one thing I think the government should realize, that this is a golden opportunity. The type of opportunity that we had as a result of the World War as well. We should see it as another independence, another form of economic independence, which we should struggle for our people to be able to do things ourselves. I mean, we couldn't predict 2020.
So we cannot predict.
2021, It's going to be, I think it's one of those years. I think it's something, like I said, like the World War lasted for 5 years. This thing is maybe an ongoing battle for 5 years.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, we have to be victorious. We have to use this opportunity to look at our internal resources and how we can leverage it. But it's going to need truthfulness, integrity on the part of our people. We have to say the truth to ourselves, and people must be able to trust us in whatever we do. We have to show that that people should be able to put their money into some businesses. They should be able to invest in it. So we are talking about mortgage banks. People should be able to put their money pull their money together, because that's another sad occurrence I see. You want to build a house, you have to start building it small by small for 10 years. And 10 people could have come together, put their money together, contribute, like Esusu, but it needs integrity. So you all contribute maybe 1 million, you build one house for Mr. A today, second year you contribute, build for Mr. B, and then instead of 10 of you, 7 individually in individual spaces and building the house after 10 years. There's no profit, but when one person has built his house, you'll be able to generate more profit, but it needs people to trust each other, which we don't have. Yes. I don't think we are really leveraging on it, but I see lots of young people who, without even going to school, even in the local rural areas, are doing fantastic work in the areas of science and technology. They are brainstorming, looking at the internet themselves and coming up with how to use the equipment, reading about it. So the internet has created this pool of knowledge where people, but the problem is to identify it and harness it and then acknowledge it, which is what we are not doing. We are only acknowledging what people learn through the formal system. There are lots of people in the informal areas, and what they do with this technology, what they've read themselves, they didn't have the opportunity to go to school or something, but we are not bringing that discussion into the system. So it's like something I think Africa should be able to, on a wider plane, benefit from STEM, but we should not, what I'm trying to say is that we should not cage people into the focus of maybe what is going on in the developed world, but try to create our own, like Wakanda village, using our own STEM, using our own ingenuity as well. And there should be people who acknowledge that this is being done. I think the problem we are having is very little acknowledgement of what is going on in Africa itself. Very few people are showcasing it in journals like what you are doing. We have very few, but there are things going on that needs to be we have to broadcast what people are doing in this area.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and for women too, they should not shy away from science and technology, because it's the future. It's the future of what the world is. And very few women are going into science and technology. And I think also with the work you are doing, it shows the role models in science and technology, and then the girls can aspire to go into these areas. So it's to show we need more publications, more reports, more acknowledgements, and then this will serve as an impetus for people to delve into this area, especially girls. then can be done, and others have done it before.